Do you want to confidently adjust your camera settings for optimal exposure, or want to capture stunning images with proper focus and depth of field? In today's video, you'll gain valuable knowledge and skills that will help you utilize different shutter speeds to create dynamic motion effects, effectively manage ISO settings to reduce noise and improve image quality. We'll be covering these 3 essential concepts that every aspiring photographer should know: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. By the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of these concepts and be well on your way to capturing amazing images. So let's dive in and get started on your journey to becoming a skilled photographer. First up, let's talk about aperture. Aperture refers to the opening in your camera lens that allows light to enter and hit the sensor. It's measured in f-stops, and the size of the aperture determines how much light enters your camera. A lower f-stop number means a larger aperture, and a higher f-stop number means a smaller aperture. The aperture also affects the depth of field in your images, which is the area in focus. A larger aperture creates a shallower depth of field, while a smaller aperture creates a deeper depth of field. Remember this: lower f-stop, more light, and shallower depth of field; higher f-stop, less light, and deeper depth of field. Next up is shutter speed. Shutter speed refers to the amount of time the camera's shutter is open, allowing light to hit the sensor. It's measured in seconds or fractions of a second. A faster shutter speed, like 1/1000th of a second, will freeze motion, while a slower shutter speed, like 1/30th of a second, will create motion blur. When shooting handheld, it's important to use a shutter speed that's fast enough to avoid camera shake. A good rule of thumb is to use a shutter speed that's at least the reciprocal of your lens's focal length. For example, if you're using a 50mm lens, try to use a shutter speed of at least 1/50th of a second. Last but not least, let's discuss ISO. ISO refers to your camera's sensitivity to light. A lower ISO number, like 100, means lower sensitivity and less noise or grain in your images. A higher ISO number, like 3200, means higher sensitivity and more noise or grain. In general, it's best to use the lowest ISO possible for the lighting conditions to maintain image quality. However, when shooting in low light situations, you may need to increase your ISO to capture a properly exposed image. We've covered the 3 essential concepts in beginner photography: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Remember, aperture controls the amount of light entering your camera and affects depth of field. Shutter speed determines how long the sensor is exposed to light and can freeze or blur motion, and ISO adjusts your camera's sensitivity to light, affecting image noise. By understanding and mastering these concepts, you'll be well on your way to capturing amazing photos. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more photography tips and tutorials. Happy shooting!